Hi all, Hipper here. So we've made it to the how-to on one of the more contentious Agile cruisers in the game, because most people don't run Edinburgh as an Agile cruiser, but that definitely doesn't mean that it's not a viable Agile cruiser, and I'll show you that in this video here. So if you go on, for example, Discord, some people playing this game have very conservative opinions on what works and what doesn't work on certain ships. Some of them even go so far as to present their opinions as facts. And I'll give you a pro tip of my own here, and you can use that in any part of life, not just warships. And that tip is don't listen to people who present their opinion as a fact. So to make sure I don't do that in this video, I'm going to start out with some hard facts here. And these are my personal stats that I've extracted from Wargaming a few times over the last 6 months, I think. The green numbers are the first extract and the yellow numbers are the latest extract. So you can see the first extract, I was horrible in Edinburgh, and this ship and we didn't get along. I had a 52% win rate and I was running a Fraser build only back then because I didn't have Tenant high at all. And honestly, I didn't think he would work much on Edinburgh. And then you see the July extract here, just a few weeks old. I've done a lot more battles in Edinburgh, and I've been using an Agile Tenant build. And of course the yellow line is a mix of my Fraser results and my Agile Tenant results. So you can see I have a mixed win rate of 61%. But the interesting part here is if we extract the Fraser build games out of this completely, so that leaves us only the Agile Tenant build battles. You can see the win rate using an Agile Tenant build is 65%, actually 65.2%. So we are kind of breaking the scale here. And I mean, sure, a larger sample size would be nice, but Wargaming themselves use 200 battles. So I'm at 231, so that should be fine. I should also mention that these are type 3, which are solo battles only. So let's look at the results here side by side, and you can see Fraser with me at the helm is a 52% win rate, and Tenant is 65 plus. So obviously, for me personally, Tenant is a much better choice than Fraser. And I'm sure for other players it's the exact opposite, but that's not what we're discussing here. We're discussing if an Agile build is doable or worth it on an Edinburgh. And you can tell here, like very, very obviously, that at least for some players like myself, a Tenant build is much, much better. So what is an Agile Tenant build? And I'll show you here, but first I'll just show you how I set up the ship. And there's actually 2 Agile builds for Edinburgh, and I'll go through both of them in this video here. But first I'll just show you how this ship is set up. So aiming systems, and of course steering gears in the second slot, and steering gears again, and we have the improved main battery in the last slot. I always pick the radar, I never pick smoke. I think radar is much more useful. And Tenant here, the first version, is with a Sure Lane Baltimore and Müller. And this will give you quick rudder and also a quite speedy cruiser. And of course the perks are the same for both builds, but I'll go through the other build later. So let's look at the stats for this build here. So if we go down to maneuverability, you can see 38.3 knots and 2.2 second rudder with the first version here. If we go to the second version, I have changed Müller, my inspiration, with Arpeggio Takao instead. And that cuts another 0.3 seconds off my rudder. So this build gives you faster rudder, but you pay a little bit in speed. And I go with this build personally, but both of them are very, very nice and they work very, very well. So let's just look at the stats for this build here. See 36.5 knots and 1.9 seconds rudder, which is one of the fastest rudders in the game actually. So I play Edinburgh extremely aggressively because you can do that in this ship. It has amazing armor and a super fast rudder, and it's reasonably quick. And of course you have radar and you have sonar. So that means that right off the bat you can usually take out the enemy destroyer relatively easily if you happen to spawn right across from him, of course, like I do here. So you just keep other cruisers behind an island and concentrate on the destroyer, and your sonar will allow you to use your fast rudder to avoid getting torped. And it works beautifully, and it's also obviously a lot of fun. And like this way of using a very speedy cruiser to get in to like the middle of the map and surprise the destroyers before they can get into a good position, that's just pretty much what Edinburgh does so well. And of course, the quick rudder, like I said before, makes torp evasion like very, very, very easy. And of course, that fast-firing, short-fuse British AP, it just melts destroyers. Like if you can get a broadside on a destroyer, it's usually a one-shot thing, a one-shot affair. If you're unlucky, you need to get another salvo in there. But usually, yeah, one thing. So like I said, aggressive playstyle, very aggressive playstyle in the ship here. Of course, if you're facing 3 or 4 battleships, you might want to rethink your strategy. But like in this case here, for example, I am supporting my DDs all the way into the cap. And I know there's a radar cruiser around here. I know there's actually 2 of them. There's a Cleveland, I'm not going to show that. But first, like, we help our destroyers out by first removing the enemy destroyer, which is, like I said, very, very quick with the British AP. And then we make short work of the radar cruiser as well. And like this is how you just support your destroyers. There's 2 of them in here, and like it would have been a nasty game for them if I wasn't here to take care of this Atlanta here. And as a matter of fact, there's a Cleveland hiding behind the island as well, and we're taking that out after this. I'm not going to show that though. So this is what Edinburgh does so well. Very aggressive play, like surprise attacks basically. And of course that radar is just beautiful. That's why I always have it. So in this example here, where the destroyer goes dark and tries to get around the island to torp me and the other destroyer here. So he smokes up, and obviously it's just a matter of turning on the radar, and he has to wave goodbye to that game. So having that fast rudder on your Edinburgh means that you could and you should definitely make full use of it. And it makes Edinburgh into an excellent kiting ship, believe it or not. And it has that really thick armor to also protect you from, you know, that stray 1 or 2 rounds that's going to hit no matter what. It's very similar to a Targo in that respect, actually, although the armor is a little bit thinner. But like I say, if you are outnumbered and you need to kite away, Edinburgh does that perfectly. Very, very nice. And of course you're able to shoot torps at the enemy while you're doing it. Another thing the rudder allows you to do is to get all your guns on target. Like for example with this Ochakov here, he fires and I wait for him to fire again, and then I use my quick rudder to get all of my 8 AP guns on his broadside to take him out in 1 salvo instead of 2 salvos. The fast rudder also helps a lot against carriers, where it's quite easy to dodge AP bombs and other nasty stuff that these quite annoying ships keep throwing at us. And obviously also torp attacks from airplanes are not really much of a problem in Edinburgh. As long as you see the planes coming, then you should be alright. And it doesn't really matter what the angle is, because with that fast rudder and the ability to slow down and especially speed up very, very quickly, it makes Edinburgh a very, very difficult target for a carrier. I promise you that. It's probably the best dodging cruiser for carrier attacks out there. So here, see, just slow down a bit and then turn like a maniac, just like Albemarle. Very similar in that respect. And of course, traditional torpedo attacks, also not a problem in Edinburgh. At least an Agile Edinburgh, that is. Now, having an Agile build doesn't mean that you have to absolutely stay in open water and like taunt everyone all the time. I mean, there's a time for Agile play and there's a time for more traditional play with cover, where you play patiently and you wait for the right moment to strike. So the beauty of an agile build is that it allows you both ways to play. If you don't have an agile build on your cruiser, obviously you cannot play an agile way. So you're limiting yourself. You only have one way to deal with things. And of course, yeah, you're giving up some range on your agile cruiser, but really, I don't think that matters much. So in other words, an agile build allows you to also, bide your time and set up like traps and ambush ships at will, just like a more traditional build. But like I said before, you also have the agile option, and that's especially handy if things go south. And of course, if you play a cruiser as aggressively as I do, sometimes things do go south, and an agile build will allow you to escape. Now, because Edinburgh has 30mm armor on the bow and actually the whole hull basically, you can take on most battleships in the game and, well, pretty much be invulnerable. And of course, a Yamato can overmatch you, but with an agile build, you are much faster than the turret rotation, for example, here. And if you can set up the situation correctly, like here, you can just like breeze past the Yamato and totally obliterate him on the way. Especially if you can get at the behind here where there's only one turret. And obviously the other battleships in the game that don't have as big guns as Yamato, they are really no match for Edinburgh. Especially a fast Edinburgh that can chase down a battleship quite quickly, actually surprisingly quickly, at least for some players. Of course, that's the main advantage of Edinburgh over a ship like Wichita, which can do the same, but Wichita doesn't have any torps to finish off a battleship quickly, because that's what you need, at least in some situations. So pretty much unless you're facing Yamato or Georgia, then you don't have much to fear from battleship guns, unless you don't go bow on, of course. So like in a situation like this, you can actually take on 3 battleships and they can't really do much to hurt you. And as soon as you get close enough, it's torp time. So a lot of fun, I promise you that. Then I'll take this Yami on. So these torps are an excellent tool to push, to stop battleships from pushing, even if it means you're going to take a little bit of damage like here, because Edinburgh has fantastic heals, so you'll just be able to heal it back, mostly. Of course not all of it, but much better than any other cruiser anyway. And again, that's something that Edinburgh does better than Wichita, because Wichita doesn't have torps, and it's quite difficult to stop an advancing battleship in Wichita. While in Edinburgh, unless it's a Yami or one of the other big gun ships, you can just approach bow on, and not much is going to happen. And then when you get into torp range, it's a simple matter of well, torping the poor bastard there. Just going to use these delicious single fire torps here, and again, a lot of fun. I save my repair. And this sure beats playing Edinburgh as a smoke cruiser, sitting somewhere and taking pot shots at enemies that other people spot for you. And I have to show Georgia as well, because like I said, Georgia has big guns, and again, if you set up your attacks in such a way like I did with the Yamato before, that you force them to run away so they only have the rear gun on you, you should be able to take care of them quite easily and quite quickly, especially if you get to fire both banks of torps like I do here. And as you can see, the battleship is struggling with the turret rotation, and it's simply just not quick enough for a quick rudder Edinburgh. So again, a lot of fun, guys. I'm really starting to love this cruiser here, and I used to really hate it. And it's all down to actually a sure lane Baltimore and the ability to put an effective agile build on Edinburgh finally. Now it gets especially fun if you get to face tier 6 battleships in your Edinburgh, because like they really don't have a chance, basically. And the only thing that would stop you in your tracks is really if you get focused by primarily enemy cruisers. Like I showed before, even if you had like 3 Nagatos, doesn't really matter. So again, they know you have torps, so they're not going to let you close. But with a fast agile build, you will be able to hunt down any battleship in the game, no matter what they're trying to do to escape. And if you have peace and quiet like I do here, and nobody's really going to interfere in your execution here, it is a lot of fun. Now the torps are not just a wonderful weapon against battleships, because as you can see here, you can use it against pretty much anything that challenges you. So here this Baltimore here is trying to protect the destroyer, and of course he doesn't have torps, but I do. And yeah, don't know if I would show broadside like that. But anyway, that is a quick trip back to port for a Baltimore like that. And I'm going to show the whole like battle here because it's quite interesting. Because first we use that awesome AP to get rid of the destroyer, and then we use the torps to get rid of the defending cruiser, and all the time keeping the bow onto that Baltimore, and also obviously this Iowa here, because we don't want to show broadside to this guy. But as long as I keep bow on, I'm relatively safe from this guy here, and all I have to do is get close again to be able to torp him. And there's again not much he can do. And as you've seen in the other clips, as soon as he sees I'm starting to fire torps, he turns away, and that's what you want to happen, because that means you can get in behind the battleship, and then you only have to deal with one turret, and you can just hit that superstructure for like amazing AP damage. And of course, if you can get the torps in play, obviously you do that as well. So use that speed and that fast rudder to use his reload time to slide in behind him here and get really close, because it's really hard to hit up close in a battleship. And then after the rear turret fires, you use your torps. Yeah, again, like I said before, it's a lot of fun. It's a very aggressive cruiser, Edinburgh, and don't be fooled by the fact that it doesn't have HE, because that AP is absolutely glorious. Of course, you have a bit of an issue on bow tanking battleships, and obviously that's why you should probably try to torp them instead, because you'll never be able to really do much damage APing a bow tanking battleship in Edinburgh. So I especially enjoy checking out Cleveland's and also Baltimore's in Edinburgh, because yeah, those are probably one of my least favorite ships, and it's always a good feeling to take them out, especially for a Kraken there. So are there any downsides to Edinburgh? And yeah, there is. It's a little bit slow, and also the fact that the French tier 7 cruiser Agile Martel just seems impervious to its AP. See, there are like 10 penetrations, but not much actually happening. And again, 4 penetrations, again, not much actually happening. And my theory is that this is down to the armor layout of Martel, because it has spaced armor. So I'm guessing that the short fuse AP on the British cruisers here, it penetrates like the outer layer of armor, but then they actually detonate before they actually hit the citadel. So if you're facing a Martel, try to hit it under the turrets, like I'm trying to do here. I don't have much luck, because in that spot the armor actually goes, or the citadel goes all the way out to the outer plating. So but you will get a lot of overpins on Martels when you face them. So here's another example here. 7 overpens in one salvo. Bit unlucky there, and okay, fine, we'll try again. We get 3 more, and okay, we'll try again. Gets 9, and we're up to 15 now, and we get to fire 1 more salvo here, and that's 20 overpens. So just keep that in mind. So this is how to set up, play, and enjoy, and obviously do well in an Agile Edinburgh. A very like uncommon build, but as I showed in the beginning, a very, very powerful build on this ship here. Not many people use it, and trust me, it works beautifully. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you out there.